Syria, a country with a long and interesting history, has seen its fair share of turmoil and triumphs. From ancient civilizations to modern-day conflicts, this land has been a witness to countless events that have shaped its destiny. In recent history, Syria has faced significant challenges under the rule of the Assad family. The Assad regime has been a central figure in the country's political landscape, influencing every aspect of Syrian life. From 1971 to 2000, Hafez Al-Assad held the reins of power with an iron grip. His rule was marked by strict control and a lack of tolerance for dissent. Hafez's leadership style was authoritarian, and he maintained his position through a combination of political maneuvering and brute force. Under Hafez's rule, Syria experienced a period of relative stability, but it came at the cost of personal freedoms and political expression. The government kept a tight lid on any opposition, ensuring that Hafez's authority remained unchallenged. In 2000, following Hafez al-Assad's death, his son Bashar al-Assad assumed the presidency. Initially, there was a sense of hope and anticipation among the Syrian people. Many believed that Bashar, with his Western education and modern outlook, would bring about much-needed reforms and openness. The early days of Bashar's rule were marked by promises of change and modernization. People hoped for a new era of political freedom and economic prosperity. However, these hopes were soon dashed as Bashar continued many of his father's repressive policies. Despite initial promises, Bashar al-Assad's regime became increasingly authoritarian. The government cracked down on dissent, and any opposition was met with harsh reprisals. This heavy-handed approach led to widespread discontent and unrest among the population. The situation escalated into a full-blown civil war in 2011, a conflict that would last for over a decade. The war brought immense suffering to the Syrian people, with countless lives lost and cities reduced to rubble. The international community watched as Syria descended into chaos, with various factions vying for control. This video will delve into Syria's tumultuous journey under the Assad family, exploring the key events and figures that have shaped the nation's recent history. From Hafez al-Assad's rise to power to the ongoing conflict and its aftermath, we will examine the impact of these events on the Syrian people. We will also look at the recent developments, including the liberation of Damascus and the end of Bashar al-Assad's rule. These events mark a significant turning point in Syria's history, offering a glimmer of hope for a brighter future. Throughout this journey, we will highlight the important moments and the people who played crucial roles in shaping Syria's destiny. From political leaders to ordinary citizens, each has contributed to the country's complex narrative. We will also explore how these events have affected the daily lives of Syrians, from the hardships they endured during the war to their resilience and hope for the future. The Syrian people's spirit and determination have been a constant source of inspiration. Our goal is to provide a comprehensive understanding of Syria's recent past, shedding light on the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. By examining the historical context and the personal stories of those affected, we hope to offer a nuanced perspective on this resilient nation. As Syria embarks on the path to recovery, it faces numerous obstacles but also holds immense potential. The future of this strong and resilient country will depend on the collective efforts of its people and the support of the international community. Together, they can build a brighter and more prosperous future for Syria. Hafez al-Assad took control of Syria in 1970. His rise to power marked a significant turning point in the country's history. As a military man, he brought with him a sense of discipline and a vision for a new Syria. His leadership style was characterized by a firm grip on power and an unwavering commitment to his ideals. He was part of the Ba'ath Party and made sure his own group, the Alawites, had the most power, ensuring that they held key positions in the government and military. This strategic move was designed to consolidate his power base and maintain control over the country's political landscape. Even though most Syrians are Sunni, this created a significant divide within the country as the majority Sunni population felt marginalized and underrepresented in their own nation. This made the army and important officials loyal to him. Assad was very strict. His leadership style was authoritarian, and he demanded absolute loyalty from those around him. The military in particular became a crucial pillar of his regime, ensuring that any dissent was swiftly dealt with. He had a system to watch and control everything in Syria. This surveillance network was extensive, reaching into every aspect of Syrian life. It was designed to root out any opposition and maintain a tight grip on the population. People couldn't say what they thought, as freedom of speech was heavily restricted. The media was tightly controlled and any form of dissent was quickly silenced. This created an atmosphere of fear and repression, and anyone who criticized him could be jailed, hurt, or even killed. Political prisons were filled with those who dared to speak out against the regime. Human rights abuses were rampant, and the regime's brutality was well known. The Muslim Brotherhood, a Sunni group, became his main target. They represented a significant threat to his rule, and he was determined to eliminate them. During the 1970s, fighting between the Ba'ath Party and the Muslim Brotherhood got worse. The conflict escalated, leading to increased violence and instability within the country. Sectarian tensions were at an all-time high. In 1982, after someone tried to kill an important Ba'ath leader, the situation reached a boiling point. The assassination attempt was a clear indication of the growing unrest and the lengths to which Assad's opponents were willing to go. Assad attacked Hama, a city where many Muslim Brotherhood members lived. The assault was brutal and devastating, resulting in the deaths of thousands. The Hama Massacre became a symbol of Assad's ruthless determination to maintain power at any cost. When Hafez Al-Assad died in 2000, his son Bashar became president. Bashar had studied in London and was married to a British Syrian woman. People hoped he would change things. He talked about making things better and more open. At first, Bashar tried to improve the economy and Syria's relationships with other countries, but these changes weren't real. The government was still very strict, and people who disagreed were punished. In late 2010 and early 2011, the Arab Spring happened. People in many countries protested for more freedom. In March 2011, Syrians also protested, but Assad's government was very harsh. The peaceful protests in Syria quickly turned into a big war when Assad's government attacked its own people. The world saw terrible things on TV, peaceful protesters being shot, hurt, and taken away. The government even hurt women and children, which shocked everyone. As the fighting got worse, some Syrian soldiers left the army to join the opposition. They formed the Free Syrian Army, or FSA, to fight against Assad. But the FSA had problems. Disagreements within the group, not enough supplies, and a changing battlefield. Other countries got involved in the war. Iran helped Assad, and Russia joined the fighting in 2015, attacking Assad's enemies. The Syrian civil war was a terrible tragedy that began in 2011. What started as peaceful protests against the government quickly escalated into a full-blown conflict. The violence spread rapidly, engulfing the entire nation in chaos and destruction. Hundreds of thousands of people died, millions lost their homes, and many cities were destroyed. The scale of the devastation was unimaginable, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Families were torn apart, and the social fabric of the country was left in tatters. Extremist groups like ISIS took advantage of the chaos. They seized control of large areas, imposing their brutal rule on the local population. The presence of these groups added another layer of horror to an already dire situation. Countries around the world found it hard to agree on how to help. The international community was deeply divided, with different nations supporting different factions within Syria. This lack of consensus made it difficult to coordinate an effective response to the crisis. The United States gave some help to rebel groups but didn't send its own soldiers. Instead, they provided weapons, training, and financial support, hoping to tip the balance in favor of the opposition. However, this approach had its limitations and did not bring about a decisive change. The United Nations couldn't decide what to do because Russia and China supported Assad, while other powerful countries supported the opposition. This deadlock at the UN meant that no unified action could be taken, prolonging the suffering of the Syrian people. The war created a huge problem for people in Syria. The humanitarian crisis was staggering, with millions in need of urgent assistance. Basic necessities like food, water, and medical care became scarce, and many were left to fend for themselves in dire conditions. Millions had to move to different parts of the country, and millions more escaped to nearby countries like Lebanon, Jordan, and Turkey. These neighboring countries struggled to cope with the influx of refugees, straining their resources and infrastructure. This caused problems for those countries too. The refugee crisis put immense pressure on their economies, social services, and communities. Tensions rose as resources became increasingly scarce, leading to further instability in the region. We saw pictures of Syrian refugees risking their lives to cross the sea to Europe, showing how the world failed to stop the war. These harrowing images highlighted the desperation of those fleeing the conflict and the urgent need for a global solution to the crisis. Even though the war was terrible, people kept fighting against Assad. A new leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, also known as Abu Muhammad al-Julani, became important. He was once a jihadist leader, but he changed and joined the Syrian opposition. This helped him get more support. Al-Sharaa's leadership helped the rebels gain control of more land. They fought against both Assad and ISIS. The rebels started to win more battles because they were more united and had better plans. When Damascus, Syria's capital city, was freed, it was a big change in the war. Assad's government had tried hard to keep control of Damascus. Losing the city was a big defeat for them. Sednaya prison, near Damascus, was a symbol of how cruel Assad's government was. Thousands of prisoners were kept there, often without a trial. When Sednaya was freed, the world learned about the terrible things that happened there. The stories of the prisoners made people very angry, and helped the opposition. When Bashar Al-Assad's government fell and Damascus was freed, it was the end of a long period in Syrian history. After many years of strict rule and violence, Syrians finally had a chance to build a new future. But rebuilding Syria will be very hard. The country is damaged, and the war caused many problems between different groups of people. Rebuilding will take a lot of work from Syrians and help from other countries. Countries around the world need to help Syria rebuild and find peace. This means helping people who need food and shelter, fixing the economy, and helping different groups in Syria work together. It also means making sure that people who did bad things during the war are punished. The end of Assad's rule is a victory for the Syrian people. But building a peaceful and free Syria is just starting. The war caused a lot of damage, and there are many problems to solve. Other countries need to continue helping Syria. This includes giving aid, helping the economy grow stronger, and helping people work together. It's important to make sure that people who did bad things during the war face justice. Syria's future is uncertain. The decisions made now will decide if Syria can find peace or if the fighting continues. The world must help the Syrian people build a future with hope, freedom, and dignity for everyone.